All right, y'all, we're taking a look at this boudoir photography business today. Gonna check out its local search, its city search, see if either of them got BSS. So we're back in the GBC universe where we're taking declining boudoir photographers to the #1 boudoir photographer in their city. As always, our North Star is FSIC, full spectrum intent capture. More about that, pin video, home video, somewhere on this profile. And that's because FSIC explains why all boudoir photographers either rise or fall. So if the boudoir photography business is rising, we're probably bringing in everyone across the entire intent spectrum here. High intent on the left to low intent on the right. And, if a boudoir photography business is falling, most likely we're missing chunks of people that we're not bringing in through this boudoir, somewhere in this intent spectrum. So over on the left, we got the highest intent peeps. So we're talking about BSS here. Get to that in a little bit. And highest intent peeps, they're searching for a boudoir photo shoot right now in their city on social media, social search, or on Google search. And we're over on the other end on the right, we got our sister brand, Boudoir FB Ad Doctor. We're talking about BLCS, and that's getting in front of the lowest intent people in our city, which is actually the highest volume of people. But with that brand, we currently only work with the boudoir photographers running more than 10 grand a month in boudoir Facebook ads. All right, now on to BSS, Boudoir Search Sameness. This is when a boudoir photographer has 0 or 1 slots on page 1 of Google. So 0 slots, we're on page 2 or deeper. I mean, we're dead right off the bat, man. Because we know approximately 80% of Google searches never even hit page 2. They are page 1 search only. So approximately 80% of searches, dude, that's literally the bulk of the market. This is who we're focused on. This is who we care about. And that's page 1 only for them. And 1 slot on page 1, that still ain't good enough because there's 10 organic slots on page 1. If 9 are other boudoir photographers, that means a buyer, potential buyer, is simply going to be, click and open everyone's link, everyone's website, blah, 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 blah. And actually, getting price quotes from everyone, price shopping everyone, price comparing everyone. Probably won't even remember who they reached out to. So there'll be so many people. Page 1 only, though. So we're assuming the bulk, that we're only focused on the 80% here, approximately 80%. They're page 1 only peeps. Now, 0 1 slots on page 1 of Google is actually not normal. It's a symptom of 2 deeper root causes. And those 2 deeper root causes are market saturation and the false belief of page 1 equality. So yeah, basically everyone knows about market saturation. Someone gets a new iPhone and they throw out their Google My Business profile that they are now a boudoir photographer. They got their boudoir photography website, competing with us to rank on page 1. Okay, cool. Also, someone gets a new camera. They're competing with us to, now they're posting in the mom groups on Facebook saying they now offer boudoir as well. And so market saturation, market always gets more and more saturated. Markets always get more and more saturated over time. And we saw, big market saturation when COVID hit. People lost their jobs, couldn't work, still needed to earn money though. And everyone's got a great camera attached to their phone. That's when a ton of boudoir photographers hopped in, making the market more and more saturated. Now, the false belief of page 1 inequality, this one basically nobody knows about because the implicit belief of page 1 equality, which is false, was kind of just, accepting that, or kind of implicitly agreeing without even thinking about it, that, yeah, every boudoir photographer gets, 0 or 1 slots on page 1. And if I lose, if I was on page 1, but then I got knocked off by new boudoir photographer with their website, that's what happens. And, I've seen that this is the #1, from what I've seen, this is the #1 killer of boudoir photography businesses. Is simply accepting this as, assuming it's normal. It's not normal. It's not normal to have this few number of slots on page 1 of Google. It's not normal to, be knocked off page 1 and just lie there like that. Google actually will give us as many page 1 slots on Google as we want to take with our effort. And I know that because I went from 0 out of 10 slots on page 1 to 9 out of 10 slots on page 1 on Google in 10 days by using this new method I've developed. And so the false belief of page 1 equality, or aka falsely believing that there's nothing we can do to hop back up on page 1 from page 2, has been, from what I've seen, the #1 killer of boudoir photography businesses. Because now we know approximately 80% of searches will never even see you if you're on page 2. And we also know that boudoir photographer with boudoir search sameness is a disappearing boudoir photographer, a DBP. So we're building up our universe here on the left side, our micro universe. We got a disappearing boudoir photographer with boudoir search sameness. It's caused by the 2 horns of market saturation and page 1, the false belief of page 1 equality, which makes people believe nothing's possible, nothing can help them. but it's kind of a box that they're stuck in. But they break through the box, they punch through the box, they can see outside and they see, oh, there's a solution. Because finally, we did find a solution because we invented it. Discovered that BSS boudoir search sameness is treated with social search saturation, aka our S cubed methodology. And it works exactly as it says, social search saturation. We saturate social search for the highest intent keywords that boudoir buyers are searching right now to buy a boudoir photo shoot in our city. Highest intent, closest to the money, easiest to convert, highest conversion rates. And the interesting thing about S-cubed methodology is this is the only solution I've seen for boudoir photographers that can successfully outcompete a saturated market, and it can work relatively quickly. Obviously, the one other solution would be brand, having a brand, but dude, that takes like minimum 5 years or 10 years to get. We ain't got that time anymore. AI is taking more people's jobs. We need maximum page one on Google now. So, how does SQ methodology successfully overcome and still grow a business with massive market saturation of boudoir photographers entering the market? So, let's say we got a million boudoir photographers, and we're in Austin, Texas. We're one of them. Everyone's got a website saying they're a boudoir photographer, and everyone's trying to rank page one on Google, because that is still where approximately 90% of searches go. And we decided to max out SQ'd methodology. So we're ranking for the highest buyer intent keywords across social search, so across all the social networks. Let's say we're taking like the first 300 slots, and as a result, we are these are kind of the small streams, the small rivers off the backside of the Andes that then flow into the Amazon River, big Amazon River, which is page one on Google. So we're also taking the first 300 slots page one on Google. Well, first 300 slots on Google, 10 organic slots per page on Google. That'd be the first 30 pages. We're taking them all up. And so anytime a buyer searches for a boudoir photographer in Austin, anywhere on social or on Google, basically like, on Google, I gotta go to page like 31 to essentially see any of our competitors. And we already know approximately 80% of searches never even hit page two. They're page one only searches. So basically no one's gone to page 31. And so in this case, even if there's a million boudoir photographers, whose boudoir photography business is growing? Ours. Well, actually maxed out S-skewed methodology. We took over all this social search. We saturated it, and as a result, saturated Google search as well on Google page one. So, and this thing works way faster than building a brand. And also, SQ methodology is the fastest way to build a brand. It helps to build a brand, cuts down the time on building a brand. So it's like extra benefit, long-term benefit with that. Now, once we treat BSS with SQ methodology, we have page one visibility. So an initial benefit of this is we're kicking competing boudoir photographers off page one, effectively making them invisible. Now, this is awesome because this happens instantly. For every slot we take on page one on Google, we're kicking another boudoir photographer off and essentially making them invisible because we know that, and approximately 80% of Google searches never even reach page two. They stay they're page one only searches. So, we're essentially making an entire competitor disappear. So this is like an initial bonus that we get right ASAP, along with our slots on page one that we get. Now, page one visibility activates boudoir search visibility for us, BSV. And with this, we actually want to hit the GBC recommended minimum of 3 out of 10 slots on page one. And when we do that, we want to hit recommended minimum of 3 out of 10 because basically all the other boudoir photographers will, they'll have 1 out of 10 if they're even on page one. And so our 3 versus their 1, we're going to look amazing. Kind of subconsciously, buyers are going to say, oh, why does Google keep recommending this person over and over and over? Maybe they'll only click on our 3 links and not even look at any of our competitors. Who knows? There's also the very, very small chance someone may have 2 slots on page one. So, do 3 slots, basically dominating everyone, no matter who's on page one. And that's boudoir search visibility. And we also know that boudoir photographer at BSV, boudoir search visibility, is a visible boudoir photographer at VBP. So we got our micro universe here, a disappearing boudoir photographer with Boudoir search sameness caused by the twin horns of market saturation and the false belief of page one equality. Thankfully, we now have a solution. SQ'd methodology works way faster than 5 to 10 years to build a brand. We achieve page one visibility. We become a visible boudoir photographer with boudoir search visibility. All right, now my results using basically, so my results using SQ'd methodology. I want to rank for the keyword term BLCS boudoir. I want to rank as much as I could page one on Google. So go here to the invisible slots, or the organic slots. We got slot 1 here, me. Slot 2 here, me. Slot 3 here, me. Slot 4 here, TikTok, me. Slot 5 here, me. Slot 6, me. Slot 7, me. Slot 8, me. And slot 10, me. So in 10 days, I went from 0 out of 10 slots on page 1 to 9 out of 10 slots on page 1. And we actually did this all with S-cubed methodology, pure S-cubed. We did not, in 10 days. So, okay, I know these are results I got. All right, main event here. Gonna check out this boudoir photography business. Gonna see if it's local search, city search, if we got BSS here. All right, so we're going to Pooler, Georgia, then Savannah, Georgia. All right, Pooler, Georgia. Boom, we got one. All right, we got one. All right, so we got 1 out of 10 local search. Check Savannah. Let's check Savannah. Boom, we got 1 Savannah. So we got 1 in our city search. All right, so local search, we got 1 out of 10. City search, we got 1 out of 10. So we got BSS for both boudoir search sameness. And for both of them, we did not hit the GBC recommended minimum. 3 out of 10 slots, page 1 of Google search. So if you're a disappearing boudoir photographer, you've done a local search for the highest intent keywords for buyers in your city, in your local area and your city, and you're seeing you've got boudoir search sameness, either 0 or 1 slots on page 1. You're not hitting the GBC minimum on page 2. And you understand, you kind of broken through the brain barrier that, page 1 equality, that's a false belief, and we can actually take as many page 1 slots as we want. And you've also seen market saturation. Yeah, more people getting more iPhones, new iPhones, get new cameras, become boudoir photographers. But you also see AI going to be taking more and more people's jobs, leading into way more boudoir photographers coming into the market. And you're saying, oh man, I got to prepare for this big supply side shock that's coming. And we can do that by, and you're saying, oh, S-cubed methodology, perfect. That's perfect for that. It allows us to saturate social search, which then allows, as a result, allows us to saturate page 1 Google search for the highest intent keywords. So basically anywhere any buyer searches, we are dominating kind of the attention space there. And so you've seen S-cubed methodology. You want to achieve page 1 visibility, become a visible boudoir photographer, achieve boudoir search visibility. You want to hit the GBC minimum of 3 out of 10 on all of the, local search and city search. And so you're seeing S-cubed methodology is what you want to utilize. And you're also seeing kind of the extra bonuses on the back end. Kind of the more thematic keyword columns that we create, that we use S-cubed methodology around the highest intent keywords, then the higher the probability that we get ranked here for AI overview for local search and city search, kind of as the only featured prominent one, because this is pulling from, thematic keyword kind of repetition, authority, age. So higher chance of achieving that with S-cubed methodology kind of as a back-end bonus, and higher chance of showing up in AI search. I actually have an AI search On the back end, ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, Claude, Perplexity. Because I remember last time I checked for boudoir photographers in the city, dude, it only brought up 3. So if we get our kind of our thematic keyword columns created attached to our brand, then a higher chance we show up in Google, all these AI searches. And as a result, kind of some back end bonus. Also, the more we do S-cubed methodology, kind of more momentum we build up against anyone else, any other boudoir photographers competing against us in our current city. So my plan right now is to only work with one boudoir photographer per city. So we can build up all that distance, all that momentum, all these front end benefits, obviously, saturating social search and Google page 1 search, kicking other boudoir photographers off. Also the back end momentum, higher recommendations, AI overview, Google search, and AI, all the different AI searches in general. And as a result, you're saying, hey, probably should be a first mover on this because someone else is a first mover in our city, then, and since my plan is to work with only one person per city on this at a time, then if you weren't working with me, you have to rederive S-cubed methodology on your own, kind of our proprietary method. And then even when you don't know if you're doing it exactly right, or exactly as we've derived it, then you have to equal our execution to maintain the gap between your competitor and your competitor who I could be working with. And you'd actually have to double or triple our capacity to kind of make up all the momentum we would have already achieved. And so you're like, all right, it's better to simply, be first mover on this, get prepared for AI, to force some more boudoir photographers into the market. And so you're like, all right, S-cubed methodology is what I need. I'm ready to go now. So if that's you, shoot me a DM when my DM's open. I'm currently not open for new patient intake, but I will let you know when I am. The hospital's not currently open for new patient intake, but when I do open the hospital, keep watching these videos. That'll tell you actually when the hospital's open. Shoot us a DM and we'll see if you qualify for S-cubed methodology.